Joshua chapter 10. The sun stands still. Now it came to pass that Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, heard that Joshua had taken Ai and had utterly destroyed it, just as he had done to Jericho and its king. So he had done to Ai and its king, and all the inhabitants of Gibeon had made peace with Israel and remained among them. So he feared greatly, because Gibeon was a large city, as one of the royal cities, in fact larger than Ai, and all the men were mighty. Therefore Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, sent word to Hoham, king of Hebron, Piram, king of Jarmuth, Zephia, king of Lachish, and Debir, king of Eglon, saying, Come up and help me. Let's attack Gibeon, for it has made peace with Joshua and Bani Israel. So the 5 kings of the Amorites, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, the king of Eglon, and the king of Eglon gathered themselves and went up, and all their armies camped against Gibeon and attacked it. Then the men of Gibeon sent word to Joshua in camp at Gilgal, saying, Don't abandon your servants. Come up to us quickly and save us. Help us, for all the kings of the Amorites living in the hill country have gathered against us. So Joshua went up from Gilgal, he and all the people of war with him, and all the mighty men of valor. Adonai said to Joshua, Do not fear them, for I have given them to your hand. Not one of them will stand before you. So Joshua came upon them suddenly by marching all night from Gilgal. Adonai threw them into confusion before Israel, defeated them with a crushing defeat at Gibeon, chased them by the road that goes up to Beth Horon, and struck them as far as Azekah and Makkedah. While they were fleeing before Israel down the descent of Beth Horon, Adonai cast down great stones from heaven on them, all the way to Azekah, so they died. More of them died from hailstones than those Bani Israel killed with the sword. Then Joshua spoke to Adonai on the day Adonai gave the Amorites over to Bani Israel, and said in the eyes of Israel, Sun, stand still over Gibeon, moon over the Ajalon valley. So the sun stood still, and the moon stopped until the nation took vengeance on its enemies. It is not written in the book of Jashar. Thus the sun halted in the middle of the sky and did not hurry to go down for about a full day. There was no day like that before it or after it, when Adonai listened to the voice of a man. For Adonai fought for Israel. Then Joshua and all Israel with him returned to the camp at Gilgal. Now these 5 kings fled and hid themselves in the cave of Makkedah. So it was reported to Joshua, The 5 kings are found hidden in the cave of Makkedah. Joshua said, Roll large stones onto the mouth of the cave, assign men over to guard them. But don't stay there yourselves. Chase after your enemies and attack them at the rear. Don't let them enter their cities, for Adonai your God has given them into your hand. So it was that Joshua, Bani Israel, finished striking them with a very, very great slaughter, that they were wiped out, though some of their survivors escaped into the fortified cities. Then all the people returned safely to Joshua in the camp at Makkedah. No one dared sharpen his tongue against Bani Israel, sharpen his tongue against Bani Israel. And Joshua said, Open the mouth of the cave to bring out those 5 kings to me from the cave. So they did so, and brought out those 5 kings to him from the cave, the king of Jerusalem, Hebron, Jarmuth, Lachish, and Eglon. When they brought out those kings to Joshua, Joshua summoned all the men of Israel and said to the chiefs of the men of war who had gone with them, Come forward and put your feet on the necks of these kings. So they came forward and put their feet on their necks. Then Joshua said to them, Never fear, be dismayed. Shazak, be strong, for thus will Adonai do to you all your enemies whom you fight. After this, Joshua struck them down and put them to death. Then hang them on 5 trees, and they remained hanging on the trees until evening. It came about at sunset that Joshua commanded that they be taken down from the trees and thrown into the cave where they had hidden themselves. Then they placed large stones at the mouth of the cave, which are there to this very day. On that day Joshua captured Makkedah and struck it and its kings with the edge of the sword, putting it in every single soul in it under a ban of destruction, leaving no survivors. So he did to the king of Makkedah as he had done to the king of Jericho. Then Joshua and all Israel with him passed on from Makkedah to Libnah and fought against Libnah. Adonai also gave it with its king into the hand of Israel. So he struck it and every single soul in it with the edge of the sword, leaving no survivors in it. So he did to its kings as he had done to the king of Jericho. Then Joshua and all Israel with him passed on from Libnah to Lachish, camped against it, and fought against it. Adonai delivered Lachish into the hand of Israel. So he captured it on the 2nd day and struck it and every single soul in it with the edge of the sword, just as he had done to Libnah. Then Horam, king of Gezer, came up to help Lachish, but Joshua defeated him and his people until he had left no survivors. Then Joshua and all Israel with him passed on from Lachish to Eglon, camped against it, and fought against it. They captured it on that day and struck it and every single soul in it with the edge of the sword, putting them under the ban that day, just as he had done to Lachish. Then Joshua and all Israel with him went up from Eglon to Hebron and fought against it. They captured it and struck it, its kings, all its towns, and every single soul that was in it with the edge of the sword, leaving no survivors, just as he has done to Eglon, putting it and every single soul in it under the ban. Then Joshua and all Israel with him turned back to Debir and fought against it. He captured it and its king and all its towns, struck them with the edge of the sword, and put every single soul in it under the ban, leaving no survivors. Just as he had done to Hebron, so he did to Debir and its king, as he had also done to Libnah and its king. So Joshua conquered the entire country, the hill country, the Negev, the lowland, and the slopes with all their kings. He left no survivors, but he put everything that breathed under the ban, just as Adonai God of Israel had commanded. Thus Joshua defeated them from Kadesh Barnea to Gaza, all the country of Goshen, as far as Gibeon. Thus Joshua captured all those kings and their lands at the single stroke, because Adonai God of Israel fought for Israel. Then Joshua and all Israel with him returned to the camp at Gilgal. Joshua chapter 11, conquering the north. Now when Jabin, king of Hazor, heard about it, he sent word to Jobab, king of Madon, to the king of Shimron, to the king of Akshaph, and to the kings of the north in the hill country, in the Arabah south of Chinneroth, in the lowland, and in the regions of Dor to the west, the Canaanites in the east, in the west, the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites in the hill country, and the Hivites on the foot of Hermon in the land of Mizpah. So they came out, they and all their armies with them, a multitude with as many people as in the sand on the seashore, with very many horses and chariots. All these kings, they joined forces, came and camped together at the waters of Merom to fight with Israel. But Adonai said to Joshua, "Do not be afraid because of them, for tomorrow, at this time, I will give all them slain before Israel. You are to hamstring their horses and burn their chariots with fire." So Joshua and all the people of war with him attacked them, and suddenly at the waters of Merom, and fell upon them. Then Joshua gave them to the hand of Israel, so they defeated them, and chased them as far as Great Zidon, and Misrephoth Maim, and up to the valley of Mizpeh eastward. They struck them down until they left them no survivors. So Joshua did to them as Adonai had instructed him. He hamstrung their horses and burnt their chariots with fire. At that time Joshua turned back and captured Hazor, and struck its king with the sword, because Hazor had formerly been the head of all those kingdoms. They struck down every single soul in it with the edge of the sword, putting them to the ban. There was none left that breathed after he had burned Hazor with fire. Thus Joshua captured all the cities of those kings and all their kings, and he struck them with the edge of the sword, putting them back to the ban, just as Moses, the servant of Adonai, had commanded. But as for the cities that stood in their mountains, Israel did not burn any of them, except Hazor alone, which Joshua did burn. All the spoil of these cities and under the cattle Bnei Israel took as their plunder, but they struck down every person with the edge of the sword until they had destroyed them, not sparing anyone who breathed. Just as Adonai had commanded Moses his servant, so Moses commanded Joshua, and so Joshua did. He left nothing undone of all that Adonai had commanded Moses. So Joshua captured all the land, the hill country of the Negev, all the land of Goshen, the lowland, the Arabah, the hill country of Israel in the lowland, from Mount Halak that ascends to Seir, all the way down from Baal Gad to the valley of Lebanon at the foot of the Mount of Hermon. He captured all their kings, struck them down, and made war with those kings. There was not a city that made peace with Bnei Israel except the Hivites who inhabited Gibeon. All the rest of them took in battle, for it was of Adonai to harden their hearts to encounter Israel in battle, that they might be put to the ban, and that they might receive no mercy in order to destroy them, as Adonai had commanded Moses. At that time Joshua went and cut off the Anakim from the hill country, from Hebron to Beer Anab, and from the entire hill country of Judah, and from the entire hill country of Israel. Joshua put a ban on them and with their cities. There was none of the Anakim left in the land of Bnei Israel, except some were left in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod. So Joshua captured the whole country according to all that Adonai had spoken to Moses. And Joshua gave it for an inheritance to Israel, according to their divisions by their tribes. Then the land had rest from war. Chapter 12. The conquered kings. Now these are the kings of the land, whom Bnei Israel defeated and possessed their land beyond the Jordan toward the sunrise, from the valley of the Arnon to Mount Hermon, and the Arabah eastward. King Sihon of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon and ruled from Aroer, which is on the edge of the valley of the Arnon in the middle of the valley, and half Gilead, even up to the Jabbok River, the border of the children of Ammon, and the Arabah up to the sea of Chinneroth eastward, and as far as the sea of the Arabah, the salt sea, eastward. the way to Beth Jeshimoth, and on the south and at the foot of the slopes of Pisgah. Also the territory of King Og of Bashan, one of the remnant of the Rephaim, who lived at Ashtaroth and at the Edrei, and ruled over Mount Hermon and Salcah and all Bashan, as far as the border of the Geshurites and the Maacathites, and half of Gilead, as far as the border of King Sihon of Heshbon. Moses the servant of Adonai and Bani Israel defeated them. Then Moses the servant of Adonai gave it as a possession to the Reubenites, Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. Now these are the kings of the land whom Joshua and Bani Israel defeated beyond the Jordan westward, from Baal Gad in the valley of Lebanon to Mount Halak that goes up to Seir. Joshua gave it to the tribes of Israel for possession according to their divisions, in the hill country, in the lowland, in the Arabah, on the slopes of the wilderness, and in the Negev, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. One king of Jericho, one king of Ai, which was near Bethel, one king of Jerusalem, one king of Hebron, one king of Jarmuth, one king of Lachish, one king of Eglon, one king of Gezer, one king of Debir, one king of Geder, one king of Hormah, one king of Arad, one king of Libnah, one king of Adullam, one king of Makkedah, one king of Bethel, one king of Tappuah, one king of Hepher, one king of Aphek, one king of Sharon, one king of Medan, one king of Hazor, one king of Shimron Meron, one king of Akshaph, one king of Tanakh, one king of Megiddo, one king of Kadesh, one king of Jokneam in Carmel, one king of Dor in the region of Dor, one king of Goim in the Gilgal, one king of Tirzah, for a total of 31 kings. Joshua chapter 13, territories yet unconquered. Now Joshua was old and advanced in years when Adonai said to him, "You are old, and getting on in years. Very much of the land is still left to possess. This is the land still left, all the regions of the Philistines and all of the Geshurites, from Shihor, which is near Egypt, to the territory of Ekron northward, counted as Canaanite, the 5 Philistine lords of Gaza, Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gath, and Ekron, also the Avim. In the south, all the land of the Canaanites, from Mira of the Sidonians to Aphek, as far as the border of the Amorites, the land of the Gebalites, and all Lebanon toward the sunrise, from Baal Gad at the foot of Mount Hermon to the entrance of Hamath, all the inhabitants of the hill country of Lebanon to Misrephoth Maim, all the Sidonians, I myself will drive them out before Bani Israel, only allot it to Israel for inheritance, as I have commanded you. So now divide the land as an inheritance for the 9 tribes and the half-tribe of Manasseh, inheritance east of the Jordan." When the half-tribe, the Reubenites and the Gadites, received their inheritance, which Moses gave them beyond the Jordan eastward, just as Moses, the servant of Adonai, gave them, from Aroer, that is on the edge of the valley of the Arnon, and the city that is in the middle of the valley, and all the flat land, from Medeba to Dibon, and all the cities of King Sihon of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon, up to the border of the children of Ammon, and Gilead, in the territory of the Geshurites, and the Maacathites, and all Mount Hermon, and all Bashan up to Salcah, all the kingdom of Og in Bashan, who reigned in Ashtaroth and in the Edrei. He was left of the remnant of the Rephaim, for Moses defeated them and drove them out. Nevertheless, Bani Israel did not drive out the Geshurites or the Maacathites, but Geshur and Maacath lived among the Israel to this day. Only to the tribe of Levi he gave no inheritance. The fire offerings of Adonai of God of Israel are his inheritance, as he spoke to them. To the tribe of Israel of Reuben, according to their clans, Moses gave as their territory from Aroer on the edge of the Arnon Valley, along with the city in the middle of the valley, and all the tableland up to the Medeba, Heshbon, and all its towns on the tableland, Dibon, Barmath Baal, Beth Baal Meon, Jahaz, Kedemath, Methayath, Kiriathaim, Sibah, and Zerah Shahar on the hill of the valley, Beth Peor on the slopes of Pisgah, and Beth Jeshemoth, all the towns on the tableland, and the entire kingdom of King Sihon of the Amorites who reigned in Heshbon. Moses defeated him with the chiefs of Midian, Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, the princes of Sihon who were living in the land, and Balaam son of Beor the diviner. or the diviner, whom Bani Israel killed with the sword among the rest of their slain. As for the borders of the children of Reuben, the Jordan was their border. This was the inheritance of the children of Reuben according to their clans, the towns, and their villages. To the tribe of Gad, Moses gave the children of Gad according to their clans. As their territory, Jazer, all the towns of Gilead, half of the land of the children of Ammon from Ararar, which is near Rabbah, from Heshbon to Ramath Mizpeh and Betonim, and from Mahanaim to the border of Lidbir in the valley, Beth Haram, Beth Nimrah, Sukkoth, and Zaphon. That is the rest of the kingdom of King Sihon of Heshbon, with the Jordan as its border, to the lowest parts of the sea of Generath, beyond the Jordan, eastward. This is the inheritance of the children of Gad, according to their clans, the towns, and their villages. To the half-tribe of Manasseh, Moses also gave inheritance. For the half-tribe of the children of Manasseh, according to their clans, their territory was from Mahanaim, all of Bashan, the entire kingdom of Og, of Bashan, all the 10 villages of Jair, which are in Bashan, 60 towns, also half of Gilead, with Ashtaroth and Edrei, the cities of the king of Og in Bashan, were for children of Machir, son of Manasseh, for half of the children of Machir, according to their clans. These are the inheritances that Moses apportioned in the plains of Moab, across the Jordan to the east of the Jericho. But to the tribe of Levi, Moses gave no inheritance. Adonai, God of Israel, is their inheritance, as he has spoken to them. Joshua chapter 14. Now these are the portions that Bani Israel possessed in the land of Canaan, which Eleazar the Cohen and Joshua son of Nun and the heads of the ancestral houses of the tribes of Bani Israel apportioned to them. Their inheritance was by the lot, as Adonai had commanded by Moses' hand, for the 9 tribes and half-tribe. For Moses had given the inheritance of the 2 tribes and the half-tribe across the Jordan, but he gave no inheritance to the Levites among them. For the children of Joseph became 2 tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim. They gave no portion to the Levites in that land except towns to live in, with their pasture lands around them for their livestock and for their cattle, as Adonai had commanded Moses. So Bani Israel had apportioned the land. Caleb inherits Hebron. And the children of Judah approached Joshua in Gilgal, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and Kenzanite said to him, "You know the word that Adonai had spoken to Moses, the man of God at Kadesh Barnea, concerning me and you. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of Adonai, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land, and I brought him back his word. It was in my heart. Nevertheless, my fellows that went up with me made the heart of the people melt with fear, but I fully followed Adonai my God. So Moses swore in the day, saying, surely the land on which your foot has trodden will be an inheritance to you and to your children forever, because you have fully followed Adonai my God. So now behold, Adonai has kept me alive, just as he said, these 45 years since the time that Adonai spoke this word to Moses, while Israel was journeying in the wilderness. And now behold, I am 85 years old today. I am still as strong today as I was in the day that Moses sent me. As my strength was then, so now my strength is, for war and for going out and coming in. Now therefore give me this hill country about which Adonai spoke on that day. For you heard on that day how Anakim were there as well as great fortified cities. Perhaps Adonai will be with me, and I will drive them out, just as Adonai had spoken. So Joshua blessed him, and he assigned Hebron to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, as his portion. Therefore Hebron came to the inheritance of Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenzanite, to this day, because he followed Adonai, the God of Israel, fully. Now the name of Hebron formerly was Kiriath Arba, for Arba was the greatest man among the Anakim. Then the land had rest from war.